Something changed, and you felt it. She looked at you, but through you. She smiled, but it never reached her eyes. She touched your arms, but the warmth was gone. You sat across from her at dinner, and for the first time, silence felt like a stranger in the room. She was there, but not really, present in body, absent in soul. A woman doesn't cheat out of nowhere. It's not a lightning strike, it's erosion, slow, silent, subtle, a series of small, quiet betrayals long before the final one. And she leaves signs, always. The way she starts guarding her phone like it holds national secrets. The way she starts looking at herself in the mirror, not like someone tired of her reflection, but like someone hoping to be seen by someone else. The way her words turn colder, not cruel, just empty, and yet you keep brushing it off, telling yourself you're overthinking. But your gut knows, your spirit knows, something isn't right. This isn't the woman you fell asleep beside every night. This is someone rehearsing her exit, and the truth is no woman walks away without first emotionally disconnecting. But the signs, they've always been there. You just didn't want to see them. Let's talk about what those signs really look like, not the clichés. The real ones, the quiet ones, the ones that hurt the most because they used to feel like love. The most painful betrayals are the ones that don't start with lies, but with silence. The silence of things unsaid, of affections withheld, of eyes that once sparkled now dull with indifference. You don't always see it coming, because you're still holding on to who she used to be. Still holding on to the memories of her laughter filling your living room, her head resting on your shoulder like it was made to fit there. You're remembering her while she's already forgetting you. Cheating doesn't begin between two bodies. It begins between two hearts that stopped touching a long time ago. The first real sign isn't sex, it's detachment. A slow, emotional distancing that looks so ordinary. It can almost feel like normal life. You ask her if everything's okay, and she says she's tired. She says work is heavy. She says she needs space, and she means it. But the part she leaves out is that someone else is already giving her attention. You notice how she doesn't reach out to you like before. The random texts, the little jokes, the thinking of you, messages gone. Replaced by a certain flatness. She's not angry, she's not fighting. She's just disengaged, and here's the hard truth. When a woman stops fighting, she's not at peace. She's done. That fight you hated, that passion, that heat. It was connection, the absence of it. That's not maturity. That's withdrawal. She's not coming closer. She's pulling away without making a sound. Look at the little rituals. The way she used to greet you when you walked through the door. The way she would check in with you at lunch. The way she used to ask how your day was, not just out of habit, but because she wanted to feel part of your world. When a woman starts emotionally investing somewhere else, these rituals vanish, and you start to feel like a roommate instead of a partner. You sleep next to her, but you feel lonelier than you ever did when you were single. It's subtle, the absence of her presence. That's the paradox, isn't it? She's still in the house, but not in your life. She'll still cook dinner, but won't sit next to you while you eat it. She'll nod when you speak, but her eyes they're elsewhere. Her body is there, but her soul is off wandering into places you're no longer invited. Another sign, she starts to change her appearance, not for herself, not for you, but for someone else. Suddenly she's dressing up more often. There's a new perfume you've never smelled before. Her workouts are more intense, her selfies more curated. But when you compliment her, she shrugs it off, because the attention she craves isn't yours anymore. It's someone else's validation that's feeding her now. And here's the part that hurts the most. She'll start accusing you of things you've never done. Blaming you for being distant, projecting her guilt onto your silence. It's her way of justifying what she knows deep down is a betrayal. If she can convince herself that you stopped caring first, then maybe what she's doing doesn't feel so wrong. It's a defense mechanism, a mask, a way of shifting the emotional responsibility onto your shoulders so she doesn't have to carry the weight of what she's become. But you notice, don't you, that when you talk about your plans, your dreams, your struggles, she's distracted. Her responses are delayed, or worse, rehearsed. She's not dreaming with you anymore. She's planning her escape. And the reason you feel so exhausted isn't because you're paranoid. It's because your soul is doing the work of trying to hold on to someone who's already letting go. You're not crazy for noticing the way her voice changes when she talks to other people, the way her smile seems more alive when it's not directed at you, the way she suddenly guards her phone like it's a portal to another life. Passwords change, notifications are hidden. Her phone never leaves her side, but her conversations with you have dried up. She's no longer sharing details. She's sharing space, but not intimacy. It's easy to miss the emotional disconnection when you're still physically close. You still share a bed, you still eat at the same table, but every conversation feels like small talk. Every hug feels like formality. You ask how she's doing and she says fine, but you feel the weight of everything left unsaid. And here's where the story becomes even more complex. Sometimes the cheating hasn't even happened yet, but it's already alive in her mind, in her fantasies, in the conversations she repeats in her head, in the attention she receives from someone who listens more, laughs louder, touches deeper. She's building an emotional home elsewhere while yours begins to feel hollow. This isn't about shaming her, it's about recognizing the truth you've been avoiding, because a man can only take so much silence before he starts to go numb too. But don't go numb, don't disconnect just because she did. Stay awake, stay aware, because the longer you ignore the signs, the harder the truth will hit when it finally arrives. You're not broken for missing the woman she used to be. That's grief, that's love in its most vulnerable form. Mourning someone who's still alive, still present, but no longer truly with you. And sometimes the bravest thing a man can do is stop pretending he doesn't notice, because the signs, they aren't whispers anymore, they're alarms, and they're begging you to stop doubting yourself. There's a moment when a man stops asking questions, not because he has answers, but because he's afraid of the ones he'll find. You sit with her in the same room, breathing the same air, and yet it feels like your continents apart. And in that quiet gap between your body and hers, the truth lives. You can feel it, not in her words, but in what she's avoiding, in the way she moves, in the way she doesn't reach for you anymore, not just physically, but emotionally. She used to want to know you, your thoughts, your fears, your weird ideas about the future. Now it's surface level. Conversations like echoes, reactions like autopilot. She listens, but she doesn't hear. She nods, but she's not with you. And when you try to dig deeper, she gets defensive, irritated. She tells you you're being needy or controlling or too intense. But what you're really being is aware that something has fractured, that emotional intimacy has been replaced with emotional economy. She gives you just enough to stop you from questioning too much. That's another sign. A woman who's cheating becomes strategic with her affection. It's not consistent. It's calculated. One moment she'll be sweet, attentive, maybe even passionate. But the next she'll pull away like your presence is a weight she can't carry. This inconsistency isn't confusion. It's guilt management. She's trying to keep you close enough to avoid confrontation, but far enough to continue what she's doing elsewhere. You begin to feel like you're auditioning for the relationship you already had, and somewhere in your gut you start bargaining. You wonder if you did something wrong, if maybe you stopped complimenting her, if maybe you were too focused on work, if maybe you should have planned more dates or held her longer at night. But that voice inside you, the one that's been whispering, knows better. Because a woman who's emotionally faithful, even when unhappy, doesn't leave like that, she leans in. She fights, she asks to be seen. A woman who's cheating, she disappears with her eyes still open. Watch what she does when you express hurt. Not frustration, but hurt. Does she lean closer, or does she accuse you of being insecure? Does she try to understand your pain, or does she use it as an opportunity to flip the script? Emotional avoidance becomes her weapon. You feel dismissed, minimized, even mocked, and yet you stay. Because you don't want to be the man who walks away without proof. But let me tell you something real. Emotional betrayal leaves fingerprints long before there's ever physical evidence. Her routine shifts. Maybe she stays out later than usual. Maybe she joins a new gym, takes solo trips, starts hanging out with friends you've never met. And when you ask casually, not accusingly, she suddenly snaps. The energy changes. Transparency used to be easy. Now it feels like trespassing. She defends her space like a soldier guards a border. But relationships aren't built on guarded silence. They're built on willing presence. When she stops letting you in, she's already opened the door to someone else. There's a coldness in her tone that wasn't there before. Not angry cold, indifferent cold, the kind that doesn't yell. It shrugs, the kind that doesn't slam doors. It simply walks out quietly while you're still talking. That's the scariest kind of cheating, the emotional kind, because it leaves no bruises, no lipstick stains, no scandalous texts, just a feeling that you've been emotionally orphaned. You start noticing things. Little lies wrapped in casual sentences, inconsistencies she brushes off with charm, explanations that almost make sense, but not quite. And your intuition starts to ache, not because you're possessive, but because you remember what it felt like when she was truly with you. And this is not that. You're sleeping beside a woman who is emotionally investing in another world. And the worst part, you're expected to pretend everything is fine. She may still say I love you, but it's mechanical. Her touch may still come, but it feels like obligation. The spark you once shared has been replaced by a performance. And maybe you convince yourself that it's a phase, that all couples go through rough patches, but this isn't a rough patch. This is detachment in disguise, and what hurts most is when you look in the mirror, and for a second you don't recognize yourself. You've become quieter, less expressive, more careful. You watch your words, you question your feelings, you second-guess your instincts. That's what emotional cheating does to a man. It doesn't just fracture trust, it fractures identity. You begin to feel like you're not enough, like if you were just a little more of something stronger, more attentive, more interesting, she wouldn't have wandered. But let's be honest, infidelity isn't about you not being enough. It's about her not knowing how to face the emptiness she feels inside. And instead of turning toward you and confronting it with honesty, she turns away into fantasy, into escape, into something that feels new, shiny, exhilarating, something that doesn't yet carry the weight of real life, responsibility, or truth. And she may still smile at you, still share a bed, still sit across from you at dinner, but emotionally, she's gone, and your heart knows it, even if your mind isn't ready to say it out loud. Sometimes the worst betrayal isn't a kiss with someone else. It's the moment you realize you've been sleeping beside a stranger. You try to hold her like you used to, and she stiffens just enough for you to feel it. She doesn't pull away, not completely. She just doesn't lean in, and that is the tragedy of emotional distance. It leaves just enough behind to keep hope alive while quietly starving your soul. What makes this so hard to see is how normal everything can look from the outside. She still posts pictures of the two of you. She still attends family events. She still remembers your coffee order, but when she looks at you, the gaze is different. It's not wonder, it's not pride, it's not intimacy. It's familiarity, functional, like she's looking through you instead of into you. That's the difference between being seen and being tolerated. You ask her how her day was, and she gives you the bullet points. But when you ask about how she feels, her walls go up. She either avoids the question or throws it back at you. She'll say, "Why are you asking? Are you trying to start something?" And in that moment you realize emotional honesty has become a threat. She's guarding something, and here's the part that cuts the deepest. She starts using your past against you. Not in the heat of an argument, but in cold, calculated deflection. You bring up your disconnection, and she reminds you of the time you forgot her birthday. Or when you raised your voice that one time 2 years ago. You're trying to talk about now, but she keeps anchoring you to your lowest moments. Not because she wants healing, but because it lets her justify the growing distance between you, because if she can turn you into the villain, she doesn't have to feel like one. What once felt like love now feels like measurement. She's always weighing, comparing, pulling back. She notices every little thing you don't do, but seems blind to all the things you still try to do right. And suddenly you're performing, trying harder, buying flowers, planning dinners, saying things you hope will reignite something. But deep down it feels one-sided, like you're trying to revive someone who's already emotionally gone. She doesn't meet you halfway anymore. She meets you with politeness, with routine, with small talk. The sacred intimacy that once belonged only to you now feels reserved, censored. She used to be emotionally naked with you. Now even her vulnerability feels dressed up. There are moments you catch her smiling at her phone softly, subtly. You ask who it is, and she says, just a friend. And even though her tone is casual, something inside you tenses. Because it's not just the words, it's the way she locks her screen after. The way she angles her body so you won't see. The way her attention shifts not to you, but to that notification, that message, that emotional high. You don't need to see the full conversation, you already feel it in your gut. That's not how a woman behaves when she's emotionally exclusive with you. But you also know this. Confronting her doesn't get you closer. It pushes her further. She becomes defensive, blames you for being suspicious. She says things like, "You're just paranoid," or "Why don't you trust me?" But the irony is, you did. You trusted her with your heart, your presence, your effort. What you're struggling with now isn't mistrust. It's clarity, because the signs are no longer whispers. They're echoes, and they're getting louder. She no longer asks for your opinion on things that matter. Decisions about life, about the home, about her career. She used to value your voice. Now she makes choices independently, then casually informs you later. That emotional teamwork you once shared. It's now a solo performance. You're not her partner. You're an audience member watching the show unfold. And the hardest part is that you still love her. You still want to believe it's salvageable. You still hope that maybe, just maybe, if you do everything right, she'll come back to you. But love is not CPR. You can't resuscitate someone's loyalty through effort alone, especially if their heart is already beating for someone else. And yes, maybe she hasn't crossed the line physically. Maybe she hasn't slept with him, but don't confuse that with faithfulness. Because emotional infidelity cuts deeper than bodies ever could. When she starts turning to someone else to confide her dreams, her fears, her needs, she's already left you behind. She just hasn't packed her bags yet. There's a silence between you now, not the peaceful kind, the charged kind. The kind that fills the room even when no words are spoken. It lingers in the space between her brushing past you without a glance. It hangs heavy in the air when you lie in bed, both scrolling, both pretending. You've gone from lovers to roommates, from soulmates to silent partners in a life that used to feel full, and that ache you carry, that confusion, that deep sense of loss without a funeral, it's grief. You're mourning a woman who's still there but no longer with you. You begin to question reality, not because you're losing your mind, but because you're living in two versions of the same relationship. In one, you remember the woman who used to cry in your arms when she had a bad day, who'd call you 3 times in a row just to tell you about something funny she saw. In the other, you're with someone who no longer turns to you when she feels pain, who now hides her laughter like it belongs to someone else. And that is a particular kind of cruelty, being so close to someone, while watching them emotionally build a life without you in it. She doesn't necessarily treat you badly. She might even still be kind. She'll still fold your laundry. She'll still ask if you need anything from the store, but emotional warmth, connection, intimacy gone. Replaced by courtesy, the kind of politeness you offer to neighbors, not to lovers. That's the tragedy of a woman who's already halfway out the door. She's not angry. She's not bitter. She's empty. She's polite where she used to be passionate. She's agreeable where she used to be expressive. And that's when it hits you, not in a fight, but in the absence of one. When she no longer argues, it's not because she's evolved. It's because she's disengaged. Emotionally detached people don't fight. They fade. You try to hold her hand and she doesn't pull away, but she doesn't grip back either. She used to intertwine her fingers with yours like she needed to anchor herself to you. Now her touch feels more like permission than desire. And this isn't about sex. It's not even about affection. It's about access, emotional access, and when that shuts down, the rest soon follows. She stops asking about your day, not because she forgot, but because she no longer sees herself as part of your world. You begin to carry your stress alone, your hopes alone, your dreams in silence, because every time you share them, she responds with detachment or a change of subject, or worse, silence. You're emotionally naked in front of someone who no longer sees you, and still you wait. You tell yourself this is a phase. That maybe work has been hard for her, maybe she's just tired, maybe she needs space, and yes, those things can be true. But when the maybe becomes a pattern and the excuses become your daily gospel, you're not protecting the relationship anymore. You're protecting the illusion of one. There are moments when her eyes light up, but not because of you. You notice the difference, the way she becomes more animated around her phone, the way she smiles at notifications and quickly flips the screen when you glance, the way she suddenly cares about how she looks even on days she used to stay in pajamas. It's not wrong to take care of herself. What's wrong is when her effort no longer includes you, when her glow is lit by a spark you didn't provide. And yet you keep trying, you cook dinner, you plan something special, you compliment her dress and she smiles, but it doesn't reach the place you hoped it would. She thanks you, but it feels more like politeness than connection. You start to wonder if she's only staying because it's easier than leaving, because the logistics of departure are messier than the comfort of distance, and this is where many men lose themselves. You begin to believe that if you can just love her enough, she'll come back. That if you become the perfect partner, you'll wake up one day and see that sparkle in her eyes again, the one that used to be reserved only for you. But perfection is not the cure for betrayal, and love is not a bribe. If she's not choosing you from a place of truth, then what you're holding on to isn't love. It's fear, fear of starting over, fear of rejection, fear of admitting you saw the signs and ignored them anyway. And the most dangerous thing, you stop trusting yourself, you question your intuition, you start believing her dismissals. You begin to think you're just too sensitive, too paranoid, too emotional. But let me remind you of something vital. A man who feels deeply is not weak. A man who notices subtle changes is not paranoid. That's not insecurity, that's presence, that's awareness. And it's the most courageous thing you can offer in a relationship, because it's easier to numb out. To scroll, to distract yourself with work, or hobbies, or late night thoughts you never speak out loud. But when you choose to see clearly, when you stop pretending, when you finally say, "This isn't working," you reclaim your power. Not from her, but from the silence that's been stealing your voice. She might say she still loves you. And maybe she believes it, but love without presence is performance, and love without truth is just habit. If she's loving you in theory but neglecting you in reality, then what you're holding on to is not love, it's memory. And memory cannot build a future. It's okay to grieve her, even if she's still in the room, even if she still shares your last name. Even if there's no clear evidence, no dramatic affair, no Hollywood confession, emotional betrayal is quieter than that. It's subtle, it's slow, and it starts long before lips ever touch someone else, but the pain it causes. It's real, it's valid, and it deserves your attention, because pretending not to see it will cost you your self-respect. Some nights it's not the loneliness that breaks you, it's the confusion. You lie there, watching her breathe beside you, wondering how someone can sleep so peacefully while your mind spins in circles. You trace every conversation, every shift in her energy, every moment that didn't feel quite right. You convince yourself you're overreacting, but deep down, you already know the truth, and that's the hardest part. Not the betrayal itself, but how long you gaslighted your own intuition just to keep the fantasy alive. You loved her so much, you were willing to abandon yourself. You were willing to silence your own gut. You told yourself, if I just hold on a little longer, if I just become what she needs, she'll come back. But the more you molded yourself to her silence, the more invisible you became. Because here's the unspoken reality. When a woman checks out emotionally, she rarely announces it. She doesn't always leave. Sometimes she just drifts quietly, carefully, casually, until one day she's a ghost of who she used to be with you, and a new version of herself with someone else. You don't always catch her in the act. There's no dramatic scene, no shattered glass, no raised voices. Just distant indifference, a new password on her phone, more time spent catching up with old friends, less eye contact, less initiation, less vulnerability. She tells you she's just figuring things out, but her silence speaks louder than her excuses. She's not lost, she's gone, and the scariest part, she left while still being physically present. That's why it's so confusing. Because her body still shares your bed, her voice still fills your kitchen, but the emotional current that once flowed between you, it's been rerouted. You feel it most when you try to open up. You share something real, something you're proud of, or something that scares you, and she responds with a nod or a quick "that's good." Before changing the subject, you give her pieces of yourself, and she hands them back like they're unfamiliar. At first you rationalize it. Maybe she's stressed, maybe she's distracted, but over time a pattern forms. You're showing up with your whole heart, and she's meeting you with half of hers, and yet she still wants the benefits of the relationship. She still wants your loyalty, your effort, your presence, just not your emotional depth. She wants comfort without vulnerability, stability without intimacy, the illusion of connection without the commitment to be emotionally available. And this creates a subtle kind of madness, because you're not broken, you're still trying, you're still reaching. But love that isn't returned starts to rot, not just in the relationship but inside of you. You start to dim yourself. You talk less, you ask for less, you love quieter, not because you want to, but because you've started to believe that you're too much. That's what emotional starvation does to a man. It makes him forget the sound of his own needs. It convinces him that his longing is weakness, that his tenderness is a flaw. But let me remind you, your desire to be seen, felt, loved, it's not weakness. It's human, and any relationship that demands you erase those parts of yourself in order to survive is not love. It's emotional exile. She may still be wearing the ring, still holding your hand in public, still calling you babe. But if she's giving her emotional truth to someone else, her laughter, her stories, her rawness, then she's cheating. Whether she's crossed a physical line or not, because infidelity isn't just about bodies, it's about boundaries. And when her heart builds a home with someone else, she's already moved out of yours. You feel it when she becomes defensive about her privacy, when her phone becomes sacred territory, when her laptop clicks close the moment you walk in the room. She starts telling you less, sharing less, but demands more space, more freedom, more time away. And any time you ask why she's being distant, she paints you as possessive. She calls you controlling, not because you are, but because she needs a way to make you the problem. It's easier for her to label you as suffocating than to admit she's hiding something, and you begin to shrink. You stop bringing things up, you stop expressing your fears, you stop asking questions, not because you've found peace, but because you've found fear. The fear that saying something, anything, might make her leave faster, but here's the painful truth: silence won't save this. Denial won't bring her back, and staying silent won't stop your heart from breaking. It only delays the crash. You deserve more than breadcrumbs, more than borrowed affection, more than a partner who offers routine instead of love. You deserve truth, even when it's hard, even when it ends things. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop loving someone who no longer chooses you with both hands. And maybe she'll call you dramatic. Maybe she'll deny everything, maybe she'll cry, or maybe she'll just shrug. But either way, you'll know you saw the signs, you'll know you listened to your gut, you'll know you didn't abandon yourself just to keep someone who already let go. There's a strange kind of peace that comes when you finally stop fighting for someone who stopped showing up a long time ago. At first it doesn't feel like peace, it feels like defeat. It feels like letting go of the only rope that kept you tethered to the memory of love. But over time the silence becomes softer, not because the pain disappears, but because you start hearing your own voice again. And that voice, the one you silenced to protect the relationship, the one you buried under her excuses, and your denial, that voice has been waiting for you to come home. You've been living in emotional purgatory, not together, not apart, just suspended, waiting for her to choose you again. Waiting for her to wake up and remember the way she used to look at you. But here's the thing: a man cannot build a future with a woman who lives in the past, or in someone else's present. She cheated, maybe not with her body, maybe not in a way the world can see, but emotionally she crossed the line. She gave your seat away. She sat her spirit across from another man and told him the things you used to hear late at night. She opened the door to her feelings, and you weren't on the other side, and what's worse than betrayal is erasure. The slow unlearning of your importance in her life, the steady dimming of the light you once were. The way she edited you out of her emotional story, while still keeping you in the frame for appearances. You tried, God knows you tried, you gave grace, you gave patience, you gave chances, you bent so far to meet her where she stood, you lost sight of where you were anchored. You waited, hoping her heart would return, that maybe, with enough loyalty, you could make her stay. But let me speak directly to you now, not as a therapist, not as a philosopher, but as a woman who has seen the deepest cracks in modern love. You cannot make someone love you with your suffering. You cannot inspire someone to cherish you by tolerating their distance. You cannot trade your self-worth for the illusion of closeness. And you deserve to be met, fully, fiercely, honestly. You deserve a woman who doesn't make you question your gut. A woman who keeps your soul in the center of her world, not as a duty, but as a choice. A woman who builds a home with you emotionally, not just physically. A woman who sees your heart, holds it with both hands, and never lets go unless it's with love. So if you're watching this, and your stomach has been in knots, if your nights are silent but heavy, if her love has become inconsistent, strategic, cold, then maybe this is the sign you needed. Not to walk away in rage, but to walk toward your own peace. You can still honor the love that once was. You can still grieve her. You can still carry the moments that made you smile. But what you can't do is keep lying to yourself. You are not hard to love. You are not too much. You are not asking for too much by wanting consistency, honesty, intimacy. You are asking the wrong person, and the man who remembers his value, The man who stops performing and starts healing, that man will never again settle for partial love. So take a deep breath, let her go, not because she left first, but because you're finally ready to return to yourself.